TRUTALK, a podcast from TruLane Equipment, where community, farming, and John Deere technology collide.
What's new in agriculture? What's happening in your neighborhood? And most importantly, who are the people that make it all happen?
TRUTALK, cultivating true conversations. Welcome back to the TRUTALK podcast. Jackson, good morning.
Good morning. We've made quite a journey today. At least I have. I've made more of a journey.
Up in Rensselaer, Indiana, at Gutwein Seed Service. I want to welcome our guest today, Marty Park. Marty, how you doing?
Good.
Glad to have you on.
Thanks for coming over.
So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well,
You've been in the industry for a while. I know that.
Yeah, I'm got gray hair and losing hair, so I've been in this for quite a while. But
You got more hair than we do.
yeah, grew up in Ohio. Came out here in 1986 with Shell Chemical Company on the crop protection side, and went through some of the transitions in this industry. We transitioned right away to DuPont, and then eventually DuPont bought Pioneer. So I was on the crop protection side and then on the seed side for 28 years, and I had the opportunity to join up and do something a little bit different with Gutwein Seed Services. That was in the fall of 2013.
Okay, it's been that long.
So I've been working with them in Northwest Indiana. I've been very fortunate that basically I've spent my entire career right here in Northwest Indiana. So I've got to work with grandpa, dad, and grandsons, multi-generational.
There you go. We talked a little bit about us merging TruLand. You know, we gave a bit of our history. We're Indiana and Ohio, right? I'm from Indiana, but I work in Ohio. But in our Precision Ag group chat, we have a huge debate between Indiana and Ohio. You're an epitome of that. So what's better, Indiana or Ohio? You spent almost more time in Indiana at this point, right?
Bigger portion of my life in Indiana, but I still bleed scarlet and gray.
Gross.
To Ohio
Gross.
State.
So you're an Ohio State guy, huh?
Yeah.
Well, you know, in fairness, this tends to be a Purdue heavy podcast.
Yeah.
So we'll,
I do root for Purdue. Unless they're playing Ohio State. I spend a little bit of money down there to educate a daughter. So, yeah.
There you go.
we will have a very excited group of teammates that we've got Ohio State guy on.
Yeah, and someone that's, not just from Ohio, but roots for OSU.
You know, it's interesting that we did have that discussion before we turned the mics on, that you were originally from Ohio, and of course we're heavy Indiana and heavy Ohio as a company, so that works out.
Yeah,
kind of cool, really. So what we're going to do today, we're going to try our first go at what we're going to call Fact or Fiction. Yeah, right, Jackson. Kind of maybe a little mini series that we've been looking at doing, and of course, me being the agronomist, I want to start out with an agronomic Fact or Fiction podcast, and Marty was the first guy that popped in my head. Don't work super close with Marty, but we've rubbed shoulders for a while. But I can remember, as long as I've been in the certified crop advisor arena and an agronomy arena, which has been 30 years, that I've always seen Marty at all the conferences, CCA conferences, meetings at Purdue. So I knew you'd been on the crop protection side as well. So.
Yeah, I think I was in that first group of certified crop advisors in the state of Indiana. So it's been a while.
So he's a single digit number on his license.
Yeah.
That's
almost,
cool.
Yeah.
No, that's fantastic. So welcome. It's good to have you here. Guy that's got a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience, and I felt like he's not afraid to talk into a microphone.
Right.
So.
First time podcast though, he did say.
Really? Yeah, that surprised me a little bit. So Gutwein Seed Service, you're a sales agronomist. What's your day kind of look like?
So every day is different. I support 5 salespeople that we currently sell the channel brand. When I came over, we were selling the specialty brand, and due to some mergers with Bayer and some consolidation and such, we're all under the channel umbrella now. But every day is different. I support these guys before and after the sale, and our customers before and after the sale. Service calls, plan all of our plots, so I get the first opportunity to look at all these new products that are being released out of the pipeline, and get to see them from the day we put them in the ground till they come out in the combine and get weighed. And, that's the fun thing. I love to see the crop grow.
Yeah.
Seed's fun. Seed's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun. It's a fun business. Placing the genetics and understanding the soils that you're putting them in, and using your knowledge to go up against other companies. A lot of times that's a good benefit, understanding how to place a hybrid and things like that. So I always enjoyed that too. So anyway, all right, we want to dive right in. We ready?
Go ahead.
We're ready for, you're going to love this, Jack. You ready for Fact or Fiction?
Oh, look at that. We haven't been using any of our sound effects.
We got
That's
sound
good.
effects. All right.
Awesome.
So we're going to throw out a topic. We're going to maybe debate it. I've kind of given Marty a little heads up on some of our subject matter. So can I dive right in?
Yeah, go for it. You got
Okay.
a great list.
First one. And again, I've got to preface this by saying, and Andy says it too, I've always been the first thing to say, us agronomists, we could be politicians, right? You never commit to a single answer.
Yes.
So they're going to hear some of that today. So first statement, fact or fiction. I'm going to say row starter does not pay.
So we work a very big geography with lots of different soil types, those sort of things. So as a general rule, I really like starter. I'm all about getting that crop off to a good start, getting good root base, getting it going. But we have some growers that don't use it, but maybe their fertility's off the charts, or maybe they're using a lot of manure.
Sure.
Have lots available, that sort of thing. Or maybe, we've got some areas where they're spreading 100 pounds of ammonium sulfate or more for the sulfur piece.
Yeah.
And maybe try not to utilize the starter piece. But I'm a starter guy. I mean, whenever you have a row that doesn't put it on quite accurately enough, you can always see it, right?
I know.
Now, whether it always pays for itself, that's the different story.
Right.
I think as we go to less tillage, I think starter has a better chance of paying. We're working with heavier residue all the time, it seems like.
Yep.
Less tillage. We also have more no-till. And whenever you're no-till, that's a cooler, wetter environment.
Yeah, harder for it to. Yep.
We need to get that crop going.
So I'm going to say, obviously, I made the statement that row starter doesn't pay. I'm a huge row starter fan myself, and I look at row starter as kind of anymore. It's kind of part of our nitrogen program.
Yeah.
And you brought up no-till. I mean, to me, if you're no-tilling and you're side dressing, you almost have to have that row starter, right, to keep that plant going up until side dress time, and gives us a lot of flexibility with our nitrogen and sulfur. And obviously we can get into some creative stuff in furrow and things like that, but I'm a big starter fan too. So I worded that question to be on the negative side but no, I'm with you.
I think the other thing in our part of the world is we have to figure out how do we get our micronutrients to that little itty bitty plant to get it going. And if you don't have a starter system of some sort, we're struggling to deliver sulfur, manganese, magnesium, boron, zinc, those sort of things.
We've gotten away, in my opinion, from a lot of our soil applied trace elements, and we want to put them in band, right? We're more efficient in a band. We're more efficient in starter. We're doing a lot of foliar feeds, and in my opinion, where we like our pHs, we tend to tie up trace elements, broadcast trace elements fairly easily. So love it for trace elements as well. So,
and my goals, I don't want to see that corn plant ever hungry for nitrogen.
Yeah.
And so it just depends on how much you're front loading your nitrogen program. If you're skimping on the front end, you better be putting starter out there.
Yeah.
Right. If you have a robust pre-emerge or at plant program, maybe you could get by in certain situations. But the other thing is, in Northwest Indiana, we raise a lot of corn on corn.
Yeah.
And we definitely need it. That residue
ties it up.
Cooler, wetter, those sorts of things.
Yep.
So
right there with you, man. I agree. And we don't want to starve that plant. And we need so many pounds of N to get that plant to side dress time too. And we won't dive down that rabbit hole or the in-furrow rabbit hole, but we obviously got a lot of other things we can do in starter when you add the in-furrow in. So
my question would be though, what's the argument for the other way around? Just to save money? I don't put starter on because it just costs. I have to fit a planter for it. I have to actually pay for the inputs. Like that's the big other argument, right?
Logistics.
Logistics. I got to keep not seed to it, but the fertilizer to it.
Makes you stop more frequently because and the folks that just want to cover acres fast.
Heavy broadcast.
Those sort of things. And they must be doing something to supplement that.
Yeah.
Right.
Correct. So I think it depends too on how early you're pushing the envelope on planting.
Yeah.
So if you're one of these guys that's going really early, that starter's probably more important to you than a guy that's going late. But I like to look at the entire nitrogen program and what a guy's doing in his timings, not just, how it all fits together to make it work for that grower.
Sure.
I agree. Wholeheartedly. Okay. Later beans have more yield potential than early beans. True or false?
Isn't that the opposite of what they tell us?
Let's see what Marty says first.
Are you talking about maturity or planting?
Maturity, sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Later maturing beans.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Yep.
I would say that historically, fuller season beans perform better than early season beans. You have a bigger window to hit the sweet spot on rainfall, those sorts of things to capture that yield potential and seed size.
Yeah.
But we have trends that are going toward earlier beans in our area, and a lot of guys are trying to plant those really early to give them a bigger window.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're going in that, there's some 1/8s to 2/5s.
Right.
And there's some products that are working. We're trying to position those on the really, really good ground so that they do not get thirsty later on.
Mm-hmm.
We keep them off our sands where we can't get water to them. And they've been working pretty well.
Yeah.
And it's, I think some of those growers too, you guys probably realize the equipment's getting more expensive. Manpower is getting harder to find.
Mm-hmm.
And as operations get bigger, they got to figure out how can we get more acres through that machine.
Yep.
So if we can start that machine 5 days earlier by setting out and planting early beans early, there's a big value. They may not be the highest yielding, but we're looking at how do we get it all done and still get our fall work done after harvest.
You've been forced into a corner because you have time.
So I agree. So from a scientific standpoint, later maturing beans should have a higher yield capability, right? Because they have a longer window of the pollination period. You brought up putting early beans. We have trended towards early beans. My goodness, last year we were at heavy on 2/1s in our area, and I guess I feel like I've fallen back to be in love with early beans. But I think guys plant early beans early on good dirt that's well drained, so they start out with an advantage.
Absolutely, those probably putting those early beans on their best bean fields to start with.
Yeah.
Right.
So. Yeah,
it's a little skewed in that way. So
we've got growers that have went from 2 combines cutting beans and shelling corn to one big machine.
Yeah.
And now we got a 45-foot head on it, and like I say, trying to spread the workload and get it through that machine. Right. Maybe wheat might be another driver in the thing in some areas.
I was gonna say you perfectly described the one customer I had in mind. They have one big combine that has to cover all their acres, so it's one less person to run another machine, but then that it doubles the acres that it has to cover.
Right.
Yep. So
but we're spreading that harvest out. So okay, we're going to say that later beans scientifically have more yield potential than early beans.
Oh, you came prepared.
I did. All right. On that subject matter,
game show.
Right.
On that subject matter, have you done any looking on planting depth in soybeans? Messed with that at all?
I have not done any work on that at all. We usually just try to tell guys, most guys are in that 1.25-inch range.
Sure.
And if we're really dry, we try to get them into moisture consistently.
Right.
The challenge I would say that I have seen recently, we have a lot of growers that are no-tilling beans into corn stalks.
Yes.
And our challenge is that we're trying to raise this corn crop the previous year and keep it healthy through the entire grain fill. So we're fertilizing to get those last bushels.
Yep.
We're spraying fungicide on it to keep it healthy. And it goes through the big green machine.
Yeah.
And we've got a ton of residue out there.
For sure.
And we're having trouble controlling the depth and getting the beans into a good seed to soil contact scenario in a lot of situations.
Yeah.
We end up getting, guy starts out with good intentions. Okay, I got 30-inch rows and, we're going to put 2 15s in between them.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we got a 60-foot planter for corn, and we got a 16-row or 40-foot wide bean planter. So all of a sudden now we're putting them into the stalk butts, those sort of things.
Yeah.
And I've seen beans, you get out in a stand situation where a guy's like, hey, I don't have very good stand, and you just kind of flip the residue back and the beans are laying on top of the ground.
On top of the ground.
So it's a down pressure and depth
kind of a
scenario.
Promotional opportunity for hydraulic downforce, isn't it?
Well, hydraulic downforce, mismatched 40-foot, 60-foot made me think of following autopath lines.
Right.
John Deere has a piece of technology that lets you follow in between perfectly the previously year's planted rows.
Right. There you go.
Yeah, I know.
Making the case for autopath and IRHC.
And another customer came to mind just this spring. I got him started, and that was exactly what we were fighting, trying to get seeds in the ground. I'm like, we would move the residue, and you just see the beans sitting on top of the soil.
Yep.
That's not going to do anything.
And in my career, the equipment has changed so much.
Yeah.
I mean, back Josh, when you started, if somebody had a 16-row planter, it was like
That
you
was the
wanted to
big
go
planter.
see it.
Yeah, that was the big planter.
Now those are replant planters
Yeah.
for some guys. You know?
Yeah.
So the technology's changed. We've almost gotten to the point where, you know, all we got to do is push these buttons in the cab and we assume everything's working fine behind us.
Yeah. Assume. Very important.
And we better get out of the cab and go
right.
check, because it doesn't always work 100%.
I'm the on the ground guy, and that's my claim to fame is get out and ground truth what your monitor displays. Get out and ground truth it. So 100%. I agree. Okay. Variable rate seeding. Let's just do a combination. Variable rate seeding in corn and or soybeans. Your thoughts? Does it pay? Is it worth the investment? Is it worth the time?
Yeah, we've got several guys that are doing variable rate, but in Northwest Indiana, we have such variable soils. I mean, we go, a lot of guys in our variable soils will go from muck on one end, and it'll be a Brims or Morocco sand with 0.5% to 1% organic matter over the ridge. And our variable rate seeding maps are going to be opposite of corn and beans, because we're going to push the populations on the sand to try to get them to compete and try to get some height and cover the rows quickly. And down in that muck, we're going to thin them back. But in corn, it's the other way around. You know, we're going to push the population in the muck.
Yeah, because they can do it.
And we're going to thin out on that sand. And then the other factor that we have a lot of irrigation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Either center pivot, laterals, or subsurface.
Okay.
So I think variable rate definitely pays for a lot of our bigger operations. I'm not sure that they're saving a lot of seed, but we're putting it where it needs to be, especially on the corn.
Yeah.
Trying to keep standability good, trying to capture the good acre and make it more productive. And then on beans, you know, you got to think we're essentially in corn and beans both, we're raising solar panels, right?
Yeah.
We're capturing sunlight.
That's right.
And when you plant that low, heavy soil, that's very productive in soybeans, and you plant it April 20th at 160,000, the chances of those beans standing season long are pretty poor. And when they fall over, the solar panels aren't standing up to catch the sunlight.
Yeah, it's not a very good solar panel.
Yeah, and then we lead to things like white mold and other diseases and such potentially too. So yeah, I like it. It just depends on every operation and how large they are and from a cost standpoint.
Yeah.
And then getting somebody that you trust to put the maps together, those sort of things. And we used to do a lot of that before the yield map or before yield monitors had accumulated a lot of data, and we would just do it by soil type and try to look at regions. But as we accumulate a lot more yield data and look at that year over year, we realize that soil type's not, in our area, soil type isn't the primary factor we should be using. We should be using yields.
Yeah, yield history.
Well,
absolutely.
And so that's interesting you say that, because I was going to ask, and yeah, like you said, do it based off of a management zone that you have pre-created. You could do it off a soil map. You could do it off a yield. You know, in my mind, your soil map would correlate pretty closely to a yield map, but not always. You're saying, I mean, obviously a yield map with 5+ years is going to be way more accurate than that soil map will be, because it's not going to just break right where that soil type is transitioning, obviously. But, you know, for guys getting started, a soil map is going to be your best bet.
That's the starting point.
That's the starting point.
We might have a particular soil type. You got 5 acres of it, and it looks really uniform on top, and it's all the same soil type, but there's 3 different subsoils underneath.
Yeah.
You know, we got clay on one end, so now we got 200 bushel corn. We've got yellow sand, and we got 150 bushel corn, and we got gray sand, and maybe it's 100 bushel corn underneath it. But it's all the same soil type.
Right. Correct.
So,
yeah. I see what you're
So
saying.
seeing that yield history,
It's water
takes some of
holding
those-
capacity.
Yeah, absolutely. And drainage has a lot to do with it too. Yeah, but
water management.
And the nice thing is we've got software programs now that are allowing us to take yield history and create some pretty solid zoning maps to do that stuff by. So
we look at elevation too in some of those zones,
right?
You know, because over here a lot of our higher elevations are sands.
Yeah.
So sand ridges and such.
So obviously where I'm sitting, typically we don't have that kind of variability. So we'd probably have a little bit less. And as I was outside last night working, I was thinking about this podcast. That was going to be my comment was, Marty, we can drive a half mile away here or a mile away and find, 3 different complete extreme soil types in the same field. In this area of the state, we definitely have some mucks and sands and even some rolling clays in the same field. So in that regard, you're probably okay with variable rate nitrogen based on your soil type variability as well.
Yeah.
If we have irrigation on it, where water isn't our limiting factor, we're probably going to put more in on the light, lower organic matter soils, the sands, than we are on the heavier black, higher organic matter sands, because you don't get the mineralization opportunity.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was my thought as I've messed with variable rate nitrogen. To me, the dark soil needs less in. It's more efficient. It holds in better. Right. But it's got higher yield potential versus your light ground that doesn't hold in very well. It's not as efficient. It doesn't produce its own in, but we need more nitrogen per plant. Right.
Correct.
Even though the yield's less. So a lot of times that nitrogen rates, they probably aren't as far apart as you think they are when you take all that into account.
And then the wild card with nitrogen is, mineralization and how much mineralized N is going to be available to that plant. And then the other thing is that's a big driver in that is how good are your root systems.
Sure.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of challenged root systems right now throughout the northern part of the state, just due to too much water.
That's right.
And standing water, compromising roots, as well as shutting down the soil biology.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Water's tough. All right. Next topic. Kind of excited to hear your opinion on this. Heavy rain during pollination. Can too much rain cause pollination issues?
Yeah, that's a good question. For years, we were always really concerned about pollination in general, either too hot and dry or too wet during rainfall. I know a lot of guys that have irrigation that would not run the irrigators during pollination. In all honesty, I really haven't seen a pollination issue for years. And we've been through some really, really stressful conditions. Yeah. So I think that these modern day hybrids, the companies, the breeders have made them, I don't want to say bulletproof, but we're a lot closer to that. They shed pollen over a longer period of time. The silks are receptive over a longer period of time. When we have a stress, it seems like the silks and pollen are still ready at the same time. The other thing, too, to remember, most everyone is planting some sort of a traded corn. So you're not planting one unique set of genetics in there. It's a combination because you have a refuge product in there that is either 5%, 10%, or way back it used to be up to 20%. And a lot of times those are different genetics that actually shed pollen and silk at different times. They're not exactly the same genetics as the 90 or 80% component.
Right.
So we probably have more pollen shed over a long period of time. And like I say, I just haven't seen, and I've seen some really extreme stuff.
We're spreading the love during pollination time. We're spreading the wealth between those different maturing genetics. And I'm with you, man. I asked that just to kind of be facetious on the rain side, because the reality is people always thought that, and I've never been concerned about that. Pollen is so sticky and it's designed to work the way it works. Yep. And you're right. We've had some pretty hardcore 30-day stress times over the last 3 or 4 years, and somehow we've come out. Yeah. It gives you a lot of confidence in the genetics that we've got in the world today.
Now, I've seen kernel abortion.
Sure.
But that's a different thing. It got pollinated, and for some reason that plant decided, hey,
I can't do it.
I can't support all these kernels that I've produced. The other thing, too, is if you would miss pollination, what percent of that yield loss on the kernels? Let's just say that you're 50% pollinated. Are we going to change kernel size on those kernels?
Well, you'd think, wouldn't you?
Yep.
A lot more room on the cob.
Right.
Exactly. So and a lot of our yield improvements that we've had over the last several years been on kernel size, right?
Yeah.
And grain fill. So so maybe a 50% pollination scenario might not be a 50% yield loss.
Right.
There's some compensation there. And the reality is, the kernel abortion is a defense mechanism, right? It's an important part of a plant defense. So, okay. And I'm with you. All right. Along the same line, we talked about the drought and the temperature. I've always been told that over 90 degrees is when the plants really start to shut down and they're not happy. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree with that, especially if you're short on moisture, right? If you have adequate moisture, maybe that temperature goes up. And I think it depends a lot, too, on the duration.
Sure.
So the way we measure heat units is we look at the high and the low for the day, and we take the average and we do our math, right? But if you had 90-degree heat for an hour during the day is your high versus 90 degrees for 8 hours, which one is more significant?
Yeah.
It would still be the same number of heat units.
Correct. Yeah. The
way we calculate it.
Yeah.
But it's the duration of that heat and the amount of stress.
Never
plant,
thought about it that
right?
way. Yeah.
So what is nighttime? How does nighttime temperature play into that equation then?
I think nighttime temperature is a real key thing.
Yeah.
Because if you're going through a really warm stretch, 90 plus degrees, you're struggling for moisture a little bit. If you can cool down in the 60s, give that plant a chance to recover. It's a lot better than if it stays 75, 80 degree nights.
Right.
That plant does not have the ability to recover. And it, I don't know the exact science behind it, but I think you're burning some of that energy that you could have put into kernels. You're trying to keep that plant cool.
Right.
Yeah.
So you lose efficiency of what you could have had.
Nighttime is very important in raising crops, and I don't think some people don't think about that.
Yeah. I think I've heard more so lately because it feels like, like you said, the whole pollination thing about heat, they're pollinating during heat, that becomes a topic. And then that leads into, hey, we're in this, like Josh said, like almost a 30-day stretch sometimes where we're low on moisture, high on heat, and we're not getting below 80 degrees at night. You know what I mean? Like it's staying hot. It's not.
That's probably the more devastating of all.
Right.
That, honestly.
When you're uncomfortable at night,
Yeah.
that corn plant's uncomfortable at night. And you got to think too that as an individual, you can cool down. You can go out in the breeze, et cetera, and stand out there when it cools down and you cool down. That cornfield
is not.
There's 80 acres and they're in there 6 inches apart by 30 across to the next row.
Yep.
The temperature swings in there are probably not as great as you would expect.
Yeah.
And sometimes if you've been through a real hot stretch and it's a cool morning and you walk into that cornfield, it actually still feels warm in there when you get in several rows.
Yep.
Yeah.
If you got 15 heat units, growing degree units in May, are those different than if you get 15 heat units in July? Yeah. Or let's say June 21st, the longest day of the year. So you've got a longer duration of heat, right?
Yep.
So
that'd be cool.
The other thing is hybrids handle stress differently. I mean,
sure,
we see that all the time in our lineup. And when you look across things, some of these things are very stable. And that's what we're trying to do, bring stable yield across that entire environment with that hybrid.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get a racehorse, but there's fewer of these racehorses and more of the stable ones that have capability to yield high, at least in our lineup.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like an insurance.
The racehorses were always the ones that would give you the biggest yield, but they could also fall in their face a lot easier, right? When times were tough. And we've taken that risk factor out, right, in our breeding and while we've pushed the yields up. So
we've just made quantum leaps in the last 20 years in breeding for disease, standability, and ultimately yield.
Love it.
And the farmer and the practices the farmer's doing too.
Sure.
From the way they, used to be, we go out and pull 2 soil samples out of an 80-acre field and say that's representative of the whole field, right? And we make our recommendations. Well, now you're doing grids and modified grids, and we're fertilizing by the acre.
Yeah. Fertilizer technology's improved. Our equipment technology's improved. Everything's gotten better. So, loaded question. This is one I'm gonna word this actually the way I feel. Sunlight is just as important as heat, if not more important than heat.
I would agree with you.
Okay.
Oh.
Quality of the sunlight.
We're going to ding that one.
Oh, yeah, because he agrees with you. Yeah.
Yeah. Quality of the sunlight. Now, a couple years ago, we were getting a lot of there were wildfires in Canada in the West.
Yep, remember that.
And we were getting poor quality, hazy days.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of concern about that. We actually had very good yields.
It was amazing.
It actually helped us in a big geography because we were bone dry.
It filtered out some of the harmful rays, didn't it?
It helped us because the cloud cover didn't punish our corn as bad.
Yeah.
But I am a bright sunlight guy, and I think if you look at some of the averages, like if you look at state averages for corn in some of these desert climates where they get lots and lots of bright sun, Pacific Northwest in Arizona, and you get nice warm days, but not too hhigh, and then cool nights. And of course, a lot of that's irrigated out there. I mean,
Right.
they can crank some serious corn.
Some serious corn.
I love that you brought
Yes.
up the residual from the wildfires, because I'm a big believer that the years that we have peak hours of sunlight, we have some of our best yielding corn years that we've ever had, crop years in general. And I think if you historically go back and look at those high yielding years, you'll see high photo period times. Now, bringing up the wildfire could make you really question that, but I'm with you. That was actually a blessing in disguise, because we were under some stress at that point.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Right.
and we still had sunlight. It was just filtered sunlight. So we still had
Yeah.
sunlight, but it took some of the heat and the direct sunlight
Yep.
heat out of the equation.
Probably cooled us down 10 degrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know? So that was a blessing.
Blessing.
Yeah. It was hazy, but we still had sunlight, filtered sunlight.
Correct.
So I love it. No, great. Okay. I'm with you on that one.
Yep. And you've seen too, in the spring, you plant the crop and, we're not that warm, but you made that soil dark, and it's amazing that if we have bright sunny days and
how
they're cool,
quick it
you
heats
put
up.
your hand on that soil and it's like,
You can
wow.
feel it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sunlight's amazing, isn't it? Sunlight's, and obviously talking about that photosynthetic factory and things like that. So I love it. No, I'm a big sunlight guy. Controversial question. I want to discuss this a little bit too. The earth makes enough fertilizer to sustain crops. We just need to be able to unlock that fertilizer. I am really curious to hear your opinion on that one,
Yeah.
because I have an opinion on that.
Yeah. So there's a lot of biologicals and different things that are being developed, looked at, worked on, those sort of things. And, maybe there's some promise in that with all the money that's going in there, trying to find products that unlock the potash and the phosphate that's in the soil and that. But I just haven't seen a silver bullet that is standalone, that is going to do it without commercial NP&K or manure. And I'm a big fan of livestock manure.
I am too.
I mean, if you put it pound to pound, the same exact relationship with commercial fertilizer,
Unbelievable.
and you told me I could put it on in good conditions and apply it in good conditions, I'd take the manure every time,
Every
because
day.
you get the micronutrients and you get the
The
biological activity.
and it's usually balanced pretty well. We were talking about that on the way up, how much I love chicken manure, and a lot of the high yield guys use chicken manure. It's a very good balanced fertility. It can take rough rolling ground and turn it into very productive ground with that balance. So I agree. I threw that in there because I think it's an interesting topic, and you're right. The biologicals, a lot of these additives that we're supposed to unlock phosphate or make it more available. But then I look at soil tests on farms that haven't had fertilizer, and I see how poor they can be.
Yeah.
That means we're pulling fertilizer out of the soil. Yep. I look at fields. We may not be able to correlate yield in this gray area of average fertility rates, but I'm telling you right now, from my experience, a field with very high fertility will out yield a field with very poor fertility, all other things considered equal.
I guess I look at things and try to figure out, how do I bulletproof my program? Because Mother Nature's going to throw us curveballs. And if I am just doing enough to get by in ideal conditions, what happens when Mother Nature throws that curveball?
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden I'm short, or I've got a deficiency or something of that nature. So, right now I'm getting some calls from guys wondering about how much nitrogen have I lost in these standing water situations.
Big discussion.
And we usually try to start out with, okay, tell me about your program. What'd you put on? They want to tell you, well, I got, 180 pounds on bean stubble and I'm at 220 on corn stalks. Okay, that's good. But was that 180 all put on at planting, or was that fall ammonia? Or was 40 of that put on with the planter, and the rest was just side dress? Because now all of a sudden we've got different scenarios, we've got different risk, and the guy that's got 220 on the bean stubble, he's not at as much risk as the guy that's got 180 on the bean stubble.
Yeah.
Right? And the guy that put it all on last fall might be a bigger risk of losing some N and running short than the guy that just side dressed ammonia 2 weeks before the rain, and 80% of his end load was in ammonia.
Right.
Side
Right.
dressed.
So it hadn't converted yet. And this is one of those years where it reminds me of 2015. I think that was the year where we had a lot of rain and we had some decisions to make, and probably I made some wrong ones, but definitely going to have some discussions late in the season about late nitrogen additions, I'm afraid,
and,
this year.
And I saw guys, I think that was 15, but we just couldn't get in.
Right.
Whole month of June. Yeah, we had some guys that threw in the towel early, and the guys that kept after the crop and tried to manage the crop and kept spending money. I mean, I think it turned out better for them than the guys that threw in the towel for the most part. But every scenario is different.
Right.
Like to have a do-over on some of those years.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of experience, and you do too, Josh. You've seen things that look really, really tough, and all of a sudden the weather changes and things pop out. I just try to keep guys focused on don't give up on the crop.
Yeah.
Unless it's just like
Disastrous. Yeah.
But keep focused and look at your budget. And we've got guys asking about spending more money on N. And, right now, do they take $40 that they're going to put in fungicide and put it in more nitrogen? Tar spot scares me to death.
Yeah.
And we've already got two or three confirmations
showing up.
Yeah,
Eastern
right.
Indiana.
That's right in my backyard, Randolph County, right?
Yeah. That's crazy.
And that can hammer yield.
And we have conditions right now primed for tar spot infection.
Cool,
wet and cool.
Cool and wet.
Yeah.
Lots of leaf moisture throughout the morning. Yeah.
It's going to probably explode here pretty quick.
I was going to say, we could have a whole rabbit hole side discussion. I mean, maybe we still could, about how you guys go about, because you guys make recommendations on stuff. Obviously, the agronomist can always make a recommendation, but whether the recommendation is in the budget, right? That's something I'm sure you guys have to battle with, especially with the grower, the farmer. The plant probably does need it. It would be better for the plant, but is it going to actually pencil out at the end of the year at the bottom line?
There's the agronomic decisions and the economic decisions. And then you start clouding them with the insurance decisions and those sorts of things.
Yeah.
Too.
It's tough, especially when the corn market's really, really good. It's a lot easier to be in that.
That's what everyone.
Right?
That's what everyone tells me.
And this isn't just the challenges we have are not just in Northwest or Northeast Indiana. This is a pretty big footprint, and we're all kind of sitting back hoping and waiting for this market to change a little bit. But time will tell on that.
Well, that's why we always have a spot in this world, Marty, for tough seasons like this. Yeah. So, next question. I guess we kind of dabbled on that. I'm going to ask this real quick. Your experience on 2x2x2 versus 2x2 row starter. Have you messed with it? You got an opinion?
Yeah, I've just played with it a little bit, and everybody's still searching for the perfect starter application methods. Most guys are not happy with what they're doing. They're always looking for something a little bit different, easier to maintain, less times out of the cab to pull root balls or rocks out of it, whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
But,
right. And I'm with you. We haven't got the perfect system yet.
Yeah. So I know there's a lot of talk about 2x2x2. I had a grower a couple years ago that put it on 2 rows of his combine or of his planter, 16 row. And those 2 rows were not as green and robust.
Interesting.
And at the same rate, supposedly. So I think maybe that 2x2x2 wasn't as concentrated and as close as his regular John Deere 2x2.
Okay.
And so early on, he's like, no, I'm not going to change those. Look, I can see those rows. What was interesting was in the fall, we had one of those falls where we were challenged with nitrogen loss and standability and that.
Yep.
And in the fall, the 2x2x2 rows actually stood better.
Okay. They rooted better
than the 2x2.
That's what my research shows too. Is
Really?
that you're pulling those, you're causing those roots to grow down on both sides of the plant.
Yep.
From what I've seen, so that's fan. I wasn't expecting you to go to that conclusion.
Yeah. Now that's one scenario, one year, what have you. But I am a fan of, if we're going to put starter on, I like to see it in the soil. Near the plant.
Yeah.
And we've had a lot of guys that are going to, we're going to put it off the back.
Yep. Same way.
And if the conditions are ideal and you get timely rain when you pull out of the field, it'll be there.
Right.
It's better than no starter, but it's not, in my mind, ideal.
It's
but
my
it is
least
easy.
favorite. It's my least favorite.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's funny you go there because I have that discussion with growers. I'd prefer you not do that. That's my last choice. But if that's what you got to do, that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
And understand your situation. If we turn off dry and you've got that band of fertilizer right on top of the soil, it's not going to do a lot of good.
Now, we have some guys that are running pop-up and that dribble tube off the back. I'm better with that because we've got some juice right there on the seed.
Yep.
And then it isn't as critical timing-wise to get that rained into that soil surface.
Would you prefer a mix of both, or would you still just rather have the 2x2?
Oh, it depends on what you're trying to do. A in-furrow allows you to do some things maybe a little differently than the 2x2.
Yeah.
The complication becomes, now we got 2 sets of tanks.
Right.
We got 2 products to manage. This one runs out when I get 30 acres, and that one runs out when is empty when I'm at 45.
They never match
I got
up.
100 acres worth of seeds, so
Right.
and I got I'm running 8 mile an hour, 9 mile an hour with this high speed planter, and I don't know what kind of acres are they getting an hour in a big field. 40,
or more depending. Yeah, if they push you on
in a 24 rows. So
they're
it's all
stopping.
about productivity.
Correct.
In a
That's
lot of
also-
scenarios.
that's
So
also
that's
true.
another piece of it.
Yeah.
That's
and
great.
in a window where you have, or in a year where you have a limited opportunity to plant
You're
in
not
good
wanting to
conditions,
stop. Yeah.
that time's pretty important.
Yeah,
for
but,
sure.
But I'm kind of the other way. I'm risk averse. I like to spread my crop out because I know Mother Nature's going to throw curveballs.
Yeah.
Now I also like to say, check things off and say I'm done, but I would rather have my crop spread out over time.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. Yep.
Well,
Limiting risk.
I kind of want to touch on that real quick because that's something I know we're kind of deviating, but we've talked about that on some of our previous agronomy talks, updates, talking about like a planting window. And you talked about how, you want a planting window, but some guys say, hey, it's perfect. I can get all my stuff in 1 week. Well, that also means, like you said, if something goes south, all of that is probably going to have to be reevaluated, either replanted or whatever. It's
So let's just say that, let's just look at this year. So we were actually very warm the beginning of April.
early.
Right.
Yeah.
Early.
Yep. Yep.
But up here, we got to consider frost a little bit.
Yep.
So, customers would call me and say, and we've done this in different years too. Okay, hey, soil's great. Tractor's running well. We got tillage going on. It's ideal. Should I really get cranked up?
Yeah.
Or what should I do?
Right.
And, when there's possibly some bad weather coming or a cool off, I'm like, hey, if you got brand new equipment, you need to make sure it works. Go test it out.
Sure.
If you don't have anything new and you want to get rolling, just, don't go out and put 500 acres in one day.
Yeah.
Just
Go easy.
run a little. Yeah.
Go easy.
Yeah, run a
Stop for
little.
lunch.
Yeah. Don't burn the midnight oil. Don't go
Right.
daylight till midnight and hammer down because we don't know. And the probability of that early planting in April for our area,
It's
that's a
slim.
little risky.
Yeah.
So when we start getting into maybe the 20th of April, a little less risky. When we get 25th, a little less risky. So I'm like, go make sure everything's going to function.
Yep.
Get a little in, get started, go at it the next day. Keep your eye on the weather forecast. And I'm not sure
Same.
which forecast
Yeah.
you watch.
Right.
Right.
Because they change
They're
so
all
frequently.
different. Yeah.
And I again, preaching to the choir, one thing that's kind of crept into my mind over the last few years is I truly believe soil conditions are a planting window.
Yep.
And I've just come to accept the fact if we've had years where conditions were absolutely perfect, that means something because even that plant can weather some pretty
Rough time.
times when it has a beautiful, good start and great quality soil.
Stand. Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
No, soil conditions are drivers. And I look at the calendar a little bit, but I don't think the penalty is there for late planting like it used to be. These hybrids handle stress so much better. I mean, we've had various scenarios where we're into the 25th of May and we're still planting corn.
Yeah.
And as long as you put it in good conditions, we can still have, as equipment's gotten bigger, it takes fewer days to plant our crop.
Yeah.
So that possibly might add more risk,
Right.
right?
It does. And
So,
there's a prediction thing there that we don't know.
So just to give you an example, my first corn plot went in the ground on April 10th down by Hubston, Illinois.
Okay.
And when he called, I was like, ooh, man, that's a little early. I don't want to lose a plot during
Yeah,
weather.
for
right?
sure.
But I do like to see some early season stress.
Sure.
Well, that plot went in on the 10th. In 8 days, I could row it.
Yeah.
Nice.
We had a lot of heat.
Yeah.
The last plot that I planted was planted May 21st up here toward DeMott on some good black sand. The grower planted everything. When he finished up, he left me 6 passes, and we went back in and filled them in. That corn was up in 6 days.
Yeah.
Now, several of the plots in the middle there, they took
3 weeks.
14 to 20 days to
Yeah,
get out of the ground.
Yeah.
And those stands are not quite as robust
No.
and as even
Yep.
as the early plot or the real late stuff.
Isn't that something?
Well, and you can,
that echoes what I've seen too.
It's so cool too, because as you're doing some road farm, just from the road driving around, going to where you're going, you can tell, like especially as it starts to come up and not quite, middle season, you can see if there's that wave in the corn or how there's spots, or you can almost put it back in your mind, and be like, oh, they had to have planted in this time window. That's probably why, because I know, like you said, a week before then, it was probably up even. Week after that or 2 weeks after that, it was perfect.
And it seems like the later planted corn this year that didn't have as good a permanent roots on it, where we've got the water damage, it's been a little harder on it. Now, we'll see how it turns out in the end.
Sure.
But,
I hit at a bad time, didn't it?
Yep. It's all about timing. And, that's the challenge we have.
Sure.
Okay, a couple more to wrap this up. And again, probably a little controversial here on both of these. So anhydrous ammonia lasts longer into the growing season than broadcast 28. A lot of anhydrous guys swear that it holds on longer.
Yeah.
In a season like this, that could be an interesting conversation with all the rain we've been having.
Correct. Yeah.
Your thoughts?
So my experience would say yes, and that's based on a lot of different soil types, sandy soils, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of our guys, actually, if they're putting it on they'll use some sort of an inhibitor to slow down that conversion even a little more than we normally would have.
Do you think if you still pre-plant anhydrous, are you a big fan, or you rather side dress and pre-plant? If you do pre-plant, it has to basically have inhibitors at this point in it, right? You can't just go, right?
You can.
I mean, you can do anything, right?
Yeah.
But like,
I think it depends a little bit on the price of the inhibitor compared to how many units of nitrogen and that whole relationship
Fair
and
enough.
the risk. If it's really heavy ground or if it's sandy. We even have some guys that run ammonia side dress, and they'll put a little bit of an inhibitor
Absolutely.
in with that also.
Absolutely.
okay, yeah.
So,
Yep.
but with nitrogen prices being really, really high, people look at things a little differently. And I'm sure there were a lot of folks probably shaved some N rates back this year a little bit.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
this might be a year in most areas where with the additional water in that we're going to need those units back,
Gonna
right?
have to supplement it,
because we don't have the roots, and the biology isn't going in the soil as well because of the anaerobic conditions.
And that was probably more of a broadcast 28 versus pre-plant ammonia question. And I think we'd both probably agree that side dressing any product is definitely going to be better.
Way better,
than
right?
The broadcast or
The ability to
pre-plant.
lose less and be more efficient.
Yeah.
Yes.
And banding is almost its own little protective. It's almost self-protective when you band, especially 28. There's a lot of salt in that little band. So denitrification inhibitors, do you think they're hard on soil biology? There's a trade-off there? Yes, no. Should we use more in?
Yeah. It's a good question.
So
I'm not going to claim to be an expert in that arena there. We've had a lot of guys that have used it for years and years and years. We got guys that use inhibitors even in their manure to try to keep it around longer.
Sure.
But I guess that's a question that I'm not 100% sure on. We're trying to make that product more environmentally safe and available to that crop. So I'm sure there's some trade-offs too there potentially.
And I agree. I mean, I've had guys that have said, hey, I'm just going to put on another 30 pounds of N for the same price. And I think there's an environmental responsibility there too when you get into that kind of thing. But
we've had guys too that have said, ammonia is bad for the ground. So, they've went to 28 and this and that, but that's at a cost also, right? Ammonia is usually one of your cheaper end sources.
Right. Yeah.
You just got to be willing to deal with the
hazard
safety.
Well, there's safety, and some people have said it's harder on pH. It's hard on soil. It's hard on the worms. I mean, you've in it. And the reality is, it probably is. I mean,
and the cost of application too, potentially. So those big green tractors don't run for nothing, and hours and those sort of things, right? And equipment. A lot of guys have had to get their own bars and heat exchangers now because the retailers aren't providing that, doing that as much.
So one of those things that there's a trade-off.
Yeah.
All right, one more question. we'll wrap this up here.
Okay.
Another subjective question, and I guess as opposed to doing a fact or fiction, we kind of already got into some of this with the in-furrows and soil biology is a hot topic, right? Mm-hmm. We know that, and soil health and carbon-driven practices, soil biology. What are your thoughts right now on just biologicals in general?
So I think that there's a ton of money going into developing these versus the ones that were out there 10, 12, 15 years ago. So there's lots, that marketplace is just changing continuously. New manufacturers, new products, consolidations, et cetera, et cetera. I've seen some really interesting things with products that are put on at planting where we get more root growth, faster emergence, just looks like if you had a split planter with the same hybrid, just looks more robust than the others. Mm-hmm. But sometimes we see the physical things on the front end, but we don't always see the yield on the back end.
Yeah, what your bottom
or
line's
sometimes
doing.
you don't see much on the front end and you see something on the back end, but it's the struggle I'm having is more with a consistency.
Right.
Year to year, field to field, farm to farm, those sort of things.
And that's my experience too. Again, is there's probably certain things, environmental things happening in a field where a biological does show up, right? But maybe you have a really good and healthy soil where the biological is not going to show up in yield.
Yep. So I think too, in my opinion, they're not the substitute for sound agronomy.
Yeah.
Okay. There's no magic bullet. But if you're doing, if you're looking at your budget and you're looking at a product and you're still going to do, all your normal fertility and you're chasing yield and you want to try one of those as an on top, I'm okay for that if it allows for the budget to be there. Mm-hmm. But if you say, hey, to use this $15 product, I got to cut $15 worth of nitrogen. Or to use this $15 worth of product, I got to cut $15 worth of potash. Mm-hmm. Or something like that. Or if you say, okay, if I use this $15 product, now I can only spray half my corn with a fungicide treatment.
You still have to set yourself up with a good base.
It's the trade-offs, right?
Yeah.
Right. And looking at those.
I think Josh has mentioned that too. He goes, if it's just something simple and you've met all your requirements for a good crop, throw it in there, see what it does.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Leading into that, and this actually was a perfect segue for that. How long or what requirements or what do you look for to say, that did work? Because like you said, there's so many different factors that just in one growing season, and I hear that from a lot of guys when I go out, they go, it didn't work this year, so I'm not going to do it next year.
Yeah. I go, to me, it's yield.
It's yield. It's yield, right?
It's a bushel game.
Because that's affecting the bottom dollar, right? But then you said if you could split the plant, you said split planter when it first came up. Oh, clear difference. Okay. Well, but then, what was it at the end of the year? What would we see? Would it have been different next year in a completely different growing season?
Correct.
How long, and this goes not just for, the biology, the soil biologies, but like any kind of practice that you're thinking about trying to implement and saying, is it going to work for me in my operation? How long? Because you don't ever hear of a 1 year average, but I hear a lot of farmers say it didn't work this year, so I'm not doing it.
That's actually a good question.
Right?
It is. Question.
Yeah. So I encourage growers to try new things every year. Try something. And if you see something, try it again. And some guys' trial is, okay, I got 1,500 acres of corn, I'm going to put it on every acre.
Yeah, right.
And then, where's your check?
Right. Did it
well,
pay?
I compared this 80 to the 80 down the road, planted a week later.
Doesn't work.
It's got to be in the same field. And these products need to be convenient to use and easy to use too. So if it slows you down or you've got to change the way you're doing things to make them work, I guess I struggle with that a little bit. But try things.
Try it. That's exactly.
Put good trials out.
Try it.
Because if your neighbor says, hey, this is giving me 5 bushel to the acre, it may not give you 5 bushel to the acre because you're farming different.
That's
and your
right.
fertility and your crop rotations. He's corn on corn and you're corn on bean stubble.
Yeah.
Feel like.
And I would say make sure you're working with a reputable representative, reputable company.
Yeah.
Do some trials.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that any silver bullets are out there, that are, hey, Josh, go try this product, mix this up, do this, and you can take 100 pounds of nitrogen away.
Right.
Yeah, right.
You know,
Yeah, probably not going to happen.
Let's do it the basics. Let's take care of the crop and see if these things bring additional yield.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. No.
Marty, fantastic. Thanks for doing this with us. Anything you've got that you want to hit on? We've hit an hour already. That went by quick.
I guess I'd just like to encourage growers. I know that, times are kind of tough and that sort of thing. And we've got some variable situations. Everything isn't perfect and green and lush and beautiful like we'd like to, but we can only control so much, and just encourage them to not give up on the crop. Keep doing your practices, and hopefully Mother Nature will straighten up, and we'll get this crop back going again, and can capture a lot of yield and have some good yields.
Yeah.
That's right.
So,
Looking up always.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yep.
Marty Park, sales agronomist, Gutwine Seed Service. We're up here in Rensselaer, Indiana. Thanks a bunch for joining us. This was fun.
Thanks for being on.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Enjoyed it.
Talk to you guys next time.
See you guys.